All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me for this reading we're going to be doing today. It's going to be a communal reading, and we're going to take a look. We've got one more week, I believe, till the end of the year, 2020. And we're all, I'm sure, going to be working on some new goals or maybe some resurfaced goals that maybe we tried to tackle in 2020 and weren't able to, and we're hoping to be able to do it in the next year. But before you can start building something, I always think it's a really good idea to kind of reflect and just really clear out any kind of emotional stuff that may be kind of blocking us or holding us back in some way or making things harder for us than they need to be. So I thought that this reading would be a really good idea because it's basically just 6-card reading, taking a look at what we need to release, and then basically what good has come out of this year, what we've overcome this year, and then eventually what needs to go. Right? So, so this is going to be a communal reading. So this will be one reading for everyone that's listening in. And then afterwards, once I'm done with this reading, then I'll do a little bonus 1-card readings, 3 of them, and then you could pick one. So we're going to do a pick a card type thing at the end for advice. So after we've got all our messages and all our information over here on what we need to release for the end of 2020, we'll go ahead and take a look at semi-individually, what kind of extra advice you'll be getting once you do your pick a cards. So let's do the first part here. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Pamela Belen, and I'm a professional tarot card reader. I'm also a Reiki master, and I also do some holistic life coaching. So if you're interested in any of that, or it sounds interesting at all, please check out my website, and you'll see that information everywhere, wherever you look. All right, so let's get started with this reading. We're going to start right here. And this card here is just basically us taking a look at where we are when it comes to releasing. Where in the emotional scales are we? Are we okay with it? Is it hard for us? Again, like I always say, this is a communal reading. So if anything doesn't resonate with you, please, please, please keep listening, and I'm sure there's something you can take from it. So if you don't find it's a perfect fit or everything doesn't really kind of seem like a match to you, I implore you to listen to the reading because I think it'll be valuable regardless, and there's always something to kind of take with you. So, and of course, as everyone knows, the best way to get a reading that really just resonates a lot or completely, if that's even possible, I don't know if that's possible, but if it is, the only way to do that is with an individualized reading. So I just want to emphasize that because a lot of people might, not resonate with everything and then kind of think it's a dud, but it's really just more about this being a communal reading instead of a private one. Alrighty, so that aside, let's go ahead and get started here. Like I said, this card here kind of takes a look at where we are with releasing, just the act of releasing anything, So let's see, as a group, what do we like? All right, so this is an excellent card. This is really something you'd want to see when you're looking to kind of let go of stuff that doesn't honor you anymore or isn't working in your life in some way. And this is the Knight of Cups. And the Knight of Cups really represents kind of like a celebration of some kind. You see that he's up on, the horse is up on his hind legs and probably winning. And there's the knight kind of holding up a chalice, probably full of wine, cheersing something that they're celebrating. So this is an opportunity for something really fantastic that makes people happy. This is also a very emotional suit. So what that means is the cups usually represent something that affects us emotionally. So this would be more than just thoughts. This would be actual emotions and feelings we're having about something. So what I'm picking up here, generally speaking with this group that's getting this reading, is that we are ready. We are ready to let go of something, and we can't wait. We're ready to start a new year. We're ready to ring in the new year. That's literal, right? What most of us do on New Year's Eve is just kind of cheers and ring in the new year, and we celebrate and we dance and we talk and we chat and we do all those good things. And that's what this guy right here is ready to do. So when it comes to how we're feeling about releasing stuff that's from 2020, so we don't bring it into 2021, I would say we're in a really, really good place. So there's nothing working against us, right? We're going to release, and we're really happy about getting to it, basically. So that's pretty excellent. All right, so we're gonna now take a look at what lessons have you learned. So what worked in your favor, what good came out of this year, and I know that might trigger a lot of people, but really no matter what catastrophe you go through, there's always some kind of silver lining. There's always something when you look back on it and the emotional charge is gone. There's always the ability to kind of say to yourself, you know what, if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. So, I wouldn't have wished it to happen, this whole awful year, but this good did come out of it. So that's what we're looking at here as a whole, as a group, what good has come out of this year for us. And we're looking at another knight. So this is the Knight of Cups over here, and then we have the Knight of Swords. And as you can see, it's so funny how over here you've got the Knight of Cups celebrating and not necessarily staying in place, but he's kind of looking off to the right when I'm looking at it. And then we have the Knight of Swords that's kind of looking in a completely different direction. So I think what I'm seeing here, what I'm interpreting this card to mean, is that the good that came out of 2020 and all its difficulties is that we've learned to be very, very action-oriented. This guy is ready. He is ready to go somewhere, and if you're not on board, he's leaving you behind, right? So I think we've all learned how to kind of come up with a plan B, C, D if we need it. And that's due to this pandemic, because you would, think, okay, well, I'm going to do this instead, and then everything's shut down over there, and then you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll try this instead, and then that's also shut down, and rules and laws and masks and just all of it, right? We've been restricted in so many different ways. We've gotten really good at thinking quickly and acting on whatever it is we're thinking about. So that is something good. It may not seem or sound like anything glamorous or incredible, but that is a really good life skill to have, to not kind of get stuck in, a no. If you get some kind of no, just kind of feeling like, oh, well, I guess I can't do it. This is just kind of about perseverance and finding a way until it happens. So I think that this is actually a really good thing to take out of this year. And over here, we're going to take a look at something similar, but it's slightly different, because what I want to take a look at here is what was the main challenge that you had throughout this year. There are the obvious ones like frustration and depression and anxiety and, loneliness and just things like that. But for us, and by us, I mean each one of us, we've all had our own, challenges, and on top of, and COVID was just something that kind of intensified the challenge. So I want to look at here and see what exactly is it that we were challenged by, in addition to everything that was going on. And I think what I'm seeing here, so this is the Three of Pentacles over here, and this is looking at pretty much what we've overcome, just kind of overcoming difficulties in the face of something challenging. So it's just like twice as challenging. And I think what I'm looking at here is really like all of us, and this is very, very true from everyone I've heard, and myself included, just my own experience has also been, the main challenge is just kind of having to start over, or, think again. I kind of feel like that was the motto of of 2020. Oh, you have a trip to to Ethiopia planned? Well, think again, you're not going there. So what are you going to do instead? So it's just this sense of, this is the Three of Pentacles, and this is basically a card of kind of starting over, kind of rebuilding something. So it's just like trying and trying and trying until you can finally build on something. So that's what I think the main lesson or challenge that we've overcome this year has been, having to start over and over again and start something new, over and over again. and having it all be because every time you try something, it's not going to work and you have to try something else. So again, something similar to this. I think these two are kind of related, which is funny because they're on opposite ends of this reading, but they kind of work together to send us the message that we have become quite good at thinking fast on our feet, on acting, and on rebuilding as many times as we need to until something sticks. So, not so bad, right? I think that's not shabby at all. So, just a quick little overview here, just on any good that may have come from this year. Now we're going to take a look at 3 things that we will be releasing, or that we should be releasing. It's really just advice, but obviously you're going to do what feels right to you, or you should anyways. And this is just a bit of a little bit of advice. That's really all it's meant to be as. So let's look at the first thing that we're being advised by the tarot to release. When we look at this, okay. So let me just have one moment here. We're looking at the Ace of Cups. And what I see here is basically you have this chalice, one chalice standing alone, powerful, with all these lasers and lights, and you have an entire, not season, but a month of the moon kind of moving in and out of its phases. And what I'm seeing here is what we need to release, or what we needed to release, and we're either doing it, we've done it, or we're about to start doing it, is learning to stand on our own 2 feet. And this is what's being implied here. So what we need to release maybe is sometimes I'll hear stuff while I'm reading, and I did hear something. So I heard singles. So I feel like people are complaining a lot about, and by people I just mean like friends of mine. Obviously, I haven't talked to the entire world, but I feel like a lot of the friends that I have, especially the people who live alone, are feeling a sort of isolation. And I know that we're not supposed to be mingling, but there are ways of mingling safely. So there's nothing that says you can't join some kind of support group, or or just a hobbyist group, or a professional group. Everything is available on Zoom right now, right? So I think it's saying something along those lines. There's no need for isolation, and you can release this. So for 2020, we've had to live this way in order to make sure things didn't get worse. The pandemic didn't get worse. That there weren't any more infections, that the numbers stayed low. For those reasons, we had to do this. But some of us may be getting kind of comfortable there, kind of comfortable in our own little world, in our own little capsulated area where no one else comes in. And that's nice, but I feel like the cards are letting us know that it's gonna be okay to kind of release this mentality of being alone all the time, or being isolated. There are different ways to connect with people, and of course it's always better in person, but if it can't be done right now, then it just can't be done. But there are ways to do it. So where there is a will, there is a way. And I believe that that's what this card is trying to tell us. We need to release this mentality of just me. I'm alone in the world. No one else knows what I'm going through. That's the beauty of groups, even online, is there's not the interaction, you're not feeling the energy, but there's still someone talking to you. There's still someone making eye contact with you as they tell you stories of things that are hurting them, or challenging them, that you can completely empathize with. So I think there's a lot of value to that. So that's one thing we need to release, definitely. It's just this attitude of, it's just me. It's just me, and I'm alone in the world, and I'm the only one going through this. So, and I'm not just talking about the pandemic. We've all gone through other things besides the pandemic as well. So, pick something, pick anything you've gone through, and find people who can also relate to that. So that's what I would say here. Release this mentality of isolation and that you're alone in the world. The next one, so these are going to be 3 things that you're being suggested to release for the new year. So the second one, okay, so now this is the 4 of Wands, or the 4 of Staff. And this card, Give me just 1 second to take a look here. All right, yeah, so that's interesting because I feel like, all right, so now this card, the Four of Wands, is definitely about a happy home, about going on vacation. It's sort of like just kind of having the freedom to do whatever you want and doing it with your family, doing it with a group of people. You know, your family doesn't just have to be someone you marry or someone that, you know, you're born from, of whatever you'd like to call it. It can also be your friends. So this isn't just being shared for those of you who have an actual, like what's a conventional family, let's say. This would be for anything you consider a family. It could even be just a group of friends or a group of colleagues. It could really be anybody. So what I'm seeing here is the need to release a sense of being trapped. That's what I'm feeling here. I'm feeling like here, you know, they're kind of like in this little, you know, the staffs are there and they're just, not that they're in a prison of any kind. This is definitely a happy card. But I'm noticing different things than I have in the past whenever I do pull this card. And what I'm getting is more of a sense or a feeling that we're talking about a family that's kind of trapped in this little area. Let's say it is because of the pandemic. They've been trapped or kind of like isolated to this section only. They can't go out. They can't go see their friends. They can't do whatever they want to do. You know, they can't travel. They can't blah, blah, blah. This is more about just kind of feeling like a loss of freedom. So it's similar to this here, where here you're feeling like you're alone in the entire world. And this here is kind of amplifying the idea of this sense of just feeling trapped and kind of stuck a little bit. That's what I'm gathering here just from this family. You know, it looks like they want to go somewhere, they want to do something, and they can't. Maybe they want to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Maybe this kid over here wants to go to Chuck E. Cheese and get some pizza, but he can't because Chuck E. Cheese is closed because of the pandemic. So just being limited in some way, that's the word that I kept trying to find and I couldn't. But the word I was looking for was limited. So this family's kind of limited in their freedom right now. And I think that that's another thing we need to release, just this mentality of there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go, I can't go see anyone, when that's not actually true in most cases. In some it is, in some of the bigger cities with the higher numbers of COVID, especially so. But like I said, where there's a will, there's a way. So if you want to connect with someone, you can do it. It might not be in a very conventional or traditional way, but it can be done. So over here, it's saying the same thing. Yes, you know, you may not be able to travel, or you may not be able to just kind of get up and go and do the things you used to be able to do in the past, but it doesn't mean that you're not free. So please release the idea that you have to be isolated and that you need to be alone in the world and that you're the only one that knows this kind of pain, because there are so many people out there and you need to connect with them. If you want to, obviously, you don't need to do anything, but you're being suggested by the tarot cards that I'm pulling that it's a good time to connect with others. It's and just release that isolation, and it's also a good time to find different ways, redefine freedom for yourself so you can find different ways to be free. You're not locked up, you're not in a jail, that, you know, self-made jail, that you can easily walk out of this and find a different way to be free, quote unquote, depending on what that means to you. So now the third thing that we're going to look at here, another thing that you should release according to the cards. And there we go. So this is quite an angsty looking picture. It's also reversed, right? So it internalizes it. For me, the Nine of Swords is definitely a card of anxiety, insomnia, worry, concern, inability to think clearly, overthinking, you know, all those great things that we've probably been doing a lot of this year. And when it's reversed like this, for me, I read this as a card that's intensified. So this card times 3 basically is your reversed card. So that's the way I'm seeing it. Just, it's not even anxiety anymore, it's angst. So this one's a lot more clear cut than these cards over here, but basically this Nine of Swords reversed for me means that the cards are telling us that it's a good time to release this anxiety that we have, or not anxiety, but angst that we have over this last year. It's time to kind of just let it go, just for the sake of your own sanity, so you can get some sleep and think positive again. All right, so again, just a quick kind of wrap up here. This one's pretty straightforward, so that's why I'm not spending too much time on it, right? We need to release this anxiety that's just kind of really intensified, and we've internalized it because there's nobody around to talk to, basically. So all right, but it looks like we're ready for change. We've just learned to really just kind of get up and go and do what needs to get done, and just kind of move in a different direction as many times as you need to until you succeed at whatever it is you're trying to do. We've also become masters at just kind of starting over as many times as we have to and coming up with, this guy looks like he's got, 4 plans here, right? Or 3 pentacles, because it's the 3 of Pentacles. I would say he's got a plan A, and if that doesn't work, he's got plan B, then he's got plan C just in case. So that's kind of what we've learned to kind of become this in order to survive this year. And then as far as what to release, we have 3 suggestions here by the tarot, and we're looking at isolation is a good thing to let go of this year, or in the new year anyways. Here, just the idea that you're trapped, or you're kind of stuck in a self-made prison of some sort. And to a degree you are, but it's more about kind of redefining what freedom means to you, and then living according to that, or changing your actions according to that, until we can literally be free, or maybe back to normal. Who knows if that'll ever happen, but if it does, until then we have to find different ways to create freedom for ourselves, or that feeling of freedom for ourselves. So we need to release this I'm trapped mentality, in other words. And then over here, just very straightforward, our anxiety is just through the roof, and there are so many different ways that you can work on that. Meditation is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Getting good sleep, watching your nutrition, exercising is excellent. That's how I handle my anxiety when it gets really, really intense. I love to go for walks, or I love to just do, some kind of like dancing, or just something like that, something that I can do to work off all that extra energy. So there you have it. This is our releasing in 2020 reading. I hope you found some value in this. I'm now going to go grab my other cards, and we're going to do the pick a card section of this entire reading. All right, welcome back. I'm glad you decided to join us for the second part of this reading, which is this is the pick a card portion. So as you can see, I have 3 cards here. We have a green stone here, which is quite beautiful. I love raw stones. I don't really like polished ones all that much, so that's why I generally use these. We have the pink rose quartz there, and then over here we've got, I'd be lying to you if I told you what this was, but it's a beautiful brick color, so very earthy looking. And I think most of you know how this works with the pick a card reading, and all we're going to do, and this is just an ending to, it's just like a nice way to seal the reading, the communal reading I just gave, and this just gives you a slightly more personalized type of reading. And we're just looking at advice on everything that we just heard regarding releasing stuff from 2020, so we don't bring it into 2021 when we decide to start manifesting. We want to kind of clear that canvas so we can paint over it and make something really beautiful, hopefully, right? All right, so the way this works is you're just going to take a look, pick the one that kind of calls to you. And I'm not going to do a timestamp because the readings are only going to be a couple of minutes long. So you can just kind of fast forward if you decide to go all the way down here somewhere. So let's go ahead and just start. We're going to start with the green stone, and a little extra advice on this releasing reading that you just received. And we have the 8 of Air, which is also known as the 8 of Swords. So with the 8 of Swords, I'll actually read what it says down here on the bottom. This is my angel deck. So this is a different deck than the one that I used to do the communal reading, but it's really great at giving advice, which is why I always pick it for that purpose. So down here it says an illusion of being trapped, which goes perfectly actually with that one thing about, I think it was the second card of what you need to release is just this mentality of feeling that you're trapped. But it's really, it's about redefining what you consider freedom and then doing more of that until we can physically become as free as we want, or not as we want, but something closer to what we used to have before the pandemic. So again, an illusion of feeling trapped, a lack of self-confidence, and afraid of taking action. So all the things that were mentioned before in that other reading, I would say that here what it's asking you is, I think I might have said this in the first part, but so if I'm repeating myself, I'm really sorry. But for my group 1 over here, or my group green stone over here, I just kind of want to reiterate the idea of, even if, like, let's say we're not physically able to move somewhere, for whatever reasons, we can't travel right now. So fine, it doesn't mean that, life is over and everything's awful and, you're used to traveling and doing whatever you want all the time and you can't do it right now. How you get through that and how much it hurts or how much you glow during the process has a lot to do with the way you think. And if you're having low self-confidence, right, or if you're afraid to take action, you're afraid to do stuff, you're going to feel trapped. So it's really more about kind of cultivating a feeling of strength, yes, inner strength, absolutely, but more so just a feeling of resilience, right? It's kind of like, all right, well, this is what's happening right now. There's nothing I can do about it, right? We can't force stores to open, or we can't, just rip our masks off without some kind of consequences and live life the way we did just a year or two ago. But it doesn't mean life's over. It doesn't mean it's bad, unless that's the mentality that you start to adopt. So please don't. The extra advice I see here for my group 1s would be to really focus on all the ways that you do feel fortunate, right? Really, I know it's been said so many times that it kind of rings empty sometimes, but it is true that gratitude really is the antidote for feeling powerless and for feeling, down in some way, whether it's because you have no confidence or because you're afraid, whatever it might be. I think gratitude plays a big, big part in shifting the way you look at things, as well as the way you feel, as well as the way you see yourself, and the way you see your future. More importantly, so the final advice here, ending this reading for whoever picked this one green stone reading, is shift your mentality. Shift how you see things. Know that this is all temporary. And before we know it, it'll be 2021 and we'll have a shot at creating a better year. It may not be a perfect year, but it'll be a better year. And it'll only be a better year if you can still kind of maintain your decorum as well as your inner strength and speak well to yourself about your future and about the year and about what you can accomplish. So there we go. So that's what we have there. I love the fact that these are all unicorns too instead of people. So, I mean, if there's ever a message of believing in magic, you're getting it right here. So believe in what you can do because you are a unicorn. All right. Thank you very much, Group 1. If you want to stick around, that'd be great. But if not, I understand. So this one's done. Now we're going to move over to our Group 2. And our Group 2 is over here with the rose quartz. And this beautiful little stone here, we're going to take a look at some closing advice from the cards, from the angel cards. And here we're looking at the Two of Fire, right? In other decks, this is usually known as the Two of Wands or the Two of Staff. And I'll just read directly from the card, which says, you've come into your own. New partnerships or contracts are coming. And continue to move forward. So there you go. So it's about resilience. It's really about, like, when you want to give up, don't do it. And I also feel like this card for me as well, the Two of Staff has always been a card of decision making. So if you have a decision you need to make, or you're feeling kind of half and half, like, like you want to do this, but you're not sure you should do this, and you're just kind of going back and forth and back and forth, you can actually check out my reading from last week, which was a decision making pick a card reading. Or you can just reflect on your own, right? Really, really take a look at your situation, whatever it is that you're choosing to release, and how you want your 2021 to look, or how you want to say goodbye to 2020. All of those things. I feel like there's always a sort of a little bit of a wanderlust vibe with this card also, the real like yearning to travel again, or to see something different, or to explore. So this is how I know this card. So I would go ahead and say that, maybe this person the advice might be something along the lines of, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What decision do you have to make that you've been kind of putting off? Get to work on that stuff before the new year starts, so that you can start to manifest a year exactly the way you want it to be. So that's what I would interpret here with this card. But here it's also talking about new partnerships, which I can definitely see that as well. As you can see, these two guys right here, they look like they're about to become BFFs, and they don't even know it. So coming into your own, I love the idea of that also. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with what I am feeling here, because I really do read intuitively, and intuitively I think that this card is really asking you to make a big decision you've been putting off for some reason. I don't know what's going on. Maybe you're trying to decide whether or not to move, or start a new job, maybe start a business, something like that I'm feeling is happening here. But it's something that it's around the theme of your passions, so something that you really love. And if you need to make a decision, make it. Now's a good time to make it before the new year starts, because then you can use the new year to actually get started on working on it, or creating it, or building it up. So there you go. So this is some final advice here for my group 2, and I hope that's helped you. Okay, and then finally, here we go to our third option. Again, I don't know what this stone is. Just looks like a little piece of clay, or I don't know, but it's just beautiful. I love it. So it feels really, really cool on the hand as well. So this is group 3 here. And again, closing advice on this reading, on what we need to release, so that we can kind of clear the path a little bit before we start trying to manifest stuff for the new year. So over here, what's the advice you guys are getting? Oh, I love this card. This is my favorite card, the Queen of Water. Okay, so now with the Queen of Water, in this deck actually it's an angel as well. So my group 3 is getting a little advice here. I'm just going to read off whatever I see on the card itself. And we have someone who's very tender-hearted, empathetic, patient, and loving. So the Queen of Water is usually someone who just is very, very intuitive, very good mother, very good, loves children, loves animals, just like a real Snow White, living in the forest and living her best life, surrounded by, kids and, just little birds, and just, this is a very sweet person, and they're also very, very powerful. So I will say that they are very powerful, but it's a very subtle power. So people tend to see them as weak, or, or tender-hearted, which kind of denotes a little bit of a feel of someone who might be a little weak, or unable to deal with anything too difficult or too hard or overwhelming. But that's not the case. They just have a different way of dealing with big things that are kind of overwhelming to people in general. They're not the fire signs. This is more of like a Pisces, or a Cancer, or what's the third one? Astrology is not my strong suit, but it is Scorpio. Yeah, there we go, Scorpio. So those are all very emotional, tender-hearted people. Yes, I agree with that. But don't be fooled. They are also very, very strong, and their intuition is Snap, snap, so on point most of the time. So just putting that out there. It's nothing to do with the card itself, but anyways, I'll read you what it says down here, and it says relationships develop to a new level. So yes, this is also a very emotional card. So this is the queen. We're talking about the almost the very top, right? Because then above her will be the king, but this is almost at the very top. So this is the nature of this suit of the, well, in this case it's called water, but usually it's called the suit of cups. And in this case here, we're looking at it being about relationships. So it's probably asking you, I think personally, that it's probably asking you to, when you're doing your releasing and you're really thinking about what kind of year you want to create next year, let your emotions kind of drive your actions or your ideas. So you're not the type of person that will do well by just logically doing the math and figuring out what's next. You're really going to follow, or you should anyways, according to this card, you should be following your heart. You should be following your emotions when it comes to making decisions and deciding how to do stuff, what to do, who to do it with. All of that is going to be driven by your sense of emotional intelligence. Let me just finish reading the rest of this card too, though. So relationships develop to a new level. Trust your intuition. There you go. So that's, I think, the superpower of this card, of the person in this card, or in this case, the angel in this card. Their superpower is their intuition, cannot be beat. So care for yourself and others. So this also talks to self-care, right? Releasing things, releasing a year, even a really hard and challenging one is hard. You know, it's hard to kind of let go of something that's become kind of familiar, especially when you don't know what's next. So practice a lot of self-care, really follow your intuition on the decisions that you decide to make, or the actions you decide to take. I think the best way to go about for my group 3 over here is really just kind of using your emotions, using your intuition, and doing it calmly. Because if you do get kind of in a tizzy when you're trying to make a decision, that's not good. You know, you want it to come from an intelligent place, an emotionally intelligent place. So you're going to do that by remaining calm, even if your emotions are involved in it. So there we go. So that is the final thoughts for this last group here, the 3rd group, and I hope you found some value in this reading. As I said, next week I also hope to post the 2nd part, so it'll kind of be like a part 2, but I won't call it that, but it is sort of an unofficial part 2 to this. So here we looked at today at how to release things. Next week, we're going to look at how to create things. Once you've cleared the dust, now how do you build on top of that? So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it gave you some clarity and some guidance. And I would love to hear which card you picked, how you felt about it. Did it resonate for you? And I will see you next week. All right. Bye, guys.